that he was advising. Governor Evers is maintaining a positive outlook on Milwaukee's 2020 DNC bid. And the Bucks lost to the Suns in Phoenix yesterday, 105 to 114. Bucks are off until Thursday when they return home to face the Pacers. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to zero. Wednesday highs in the low 20s and Thursday highs in the mid-20s.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, it's Tuesday, and sometimes you just got to stand.
Crudy, it's not just a Tuesday, it's Fat Tuesday, my friend. Finally, a day of the week named after you.
Oh, come on. I've been making a modest effort. I'm actually down a few pounds. Well, and you're looking fluffy as ever.
Oh, come on. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling trim, Crudy. Summertime is coming. I got to get my beach weight going on here.
Well, you look like a beach something there. And I guess better to feel good than to look good in your case.
You know, it's all about a positive mental attitude, Crudy.
You know, here's the question we really should be asking ourselves right now. Dom, is the President of the United States, is he a criminal?
Well, of course he is.
Well, that's the attitude that you and I share, but one must question, do the American people feel like we do, Dom? And apparently the answer is yes. Quinnipiac polling dropped today, Dom. I saw this. I thought we got a lead here. 64% of U.S. voters say Trump committed a crime. That would make him a criminal. You know, perhaps unconvicted at this point, Dom. Unindicted, perhaps. President Donald Trump committed crimes before he became president. American voters said 64 to 24% in a Quinnipiac University national poll released today. Republicans say, now note, Republicans say 48 to 33%, 48 to 33, that President Trump did not commit crimes. But that means that 33% of Republicans think that their president is a criminal, Dom.
Yeah.
That's 33% of Republicans. Of course, that's before he was president. The independent Quinnipiac University national poll finds every other listed party, gender, education, age, and racial group says by a wide margin that Trump committed crimes. But the U.S. voters are divided. And here's another interesting point, Tom. 45 to 43% on whether Trump committed any crimes while he's been the president. 45% of Americans believe he's committed crimes in the White House, Tom.
Yeah? And this surprises you? What's your reaction? What is...
Lock her up. Lock her up.
Yeah, right. What's your... I'm not surprised. Are you surprised?
I'm a little surprised. I'm surprised to hear that 64% of Americans think that A, the president committed crimes before he was the president, and B, 45% feel pretty confident he committed crimes while the president. A presidential candidate paying money to hide a negative story during a campaign and not disclosing that payment is unethical and a crime, 40% of voters say. Another 21% say it is unethical but not a crime, and 20% say it's not unethical, Dom, to pay off a porn star, you know, right before the election. Through a fixer and then writing a check.
And then lying, of course, lying to the American people about it the whole time. that's not unethical? So according to
How about
those polling,
intelligent?
regardless, so lying is ethical. According to a certain percentage of these folks who responded to the Quinnipiac poll.
Well, we're down to 20% at that point, Dom. So, the core Trumpsters, Congress should not begin impeachment proceedings against Trump. American voters say by 59 to 35%, Tom. No impeachment, says America.
Wait. So a majority of Americans believe that this president committed crimes or not a majority necessarily while in office, but certainly a large percentage while in office. And yet, 59% say that Congress should not begin impeachment. So,
Dominic,
I
would do simple math. 45% believe he committed a crime while in office, and 59% do not believe he should be impeached. Mathematically, those two thoughts seem implausible.
But here's what I pull out of that. Here is the ray of sunshine that comes out of perhaps these two seemingly opposing thoughts, is that folks are already there. I mean, it's not a matter of necessarily, hey, proving to the folks, although, some articulation and specificity will be good going forward, but most people think the guy's a criminal already. That's not the part that they have to be convinced of. Now they have to be convinced that he is such a criminal and such a danger to our society, to our government, to our way of life here in this country that he must be removed. So I think we're halfway there. The cup is half full.
Well, aren't you the little optimist? I'm going to read on from the statement issued by Quinnipiac. But Congress should do more to investigate. Here's a direct quote. Michael Cohen's claims about President Trump's unethical and illegal behavior. Voters apparently say investigate. 58 to 35%. 58% want to see more investigations. Dominic, American voters believe Cohen more than Trump. 50 to 35% of what? Thrice quadruple convicted felon, convicted for lying, as the Republicans were very clear to point out, Tom. He's got more credibility than the president of the United States by double digits, buddy.
Well, I mean, let's remember
50 to 35.
Washington Post keeping track over 9,000 misleading statements or lies in 770 some odd days in office. I mean, everybody's looking solid compared to Donald Trump.
Dominic, Cohen told the truth, according to 44% of voters, while 36% said he did not tell the truth. He's still +8, Dom. That's still a better rating than damn near any Republican, certainly in the Congress. Dom, I read on. Voters approve 41 to 36% of the way Democrats in Congress handled Cohen's testimony before the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Voters disapprove 51 to 25% of the way that Republicans handled the Cohen hearing. Talking to you, Jordan. Cloudy and 38. Again, I read a quote from the Quinnipiac polling statement. Cloudy and 38. The future of President Donald Trump's presidency and the percentage of people who support him mirror the March weather in D.C., said Tim Malloy, assistant director of the Quinnipiac University poll. See how clever they were, Dom?
I see that.
Cloudy and 38. The answers to two survey questions delivered a double-barreled gut punch to the honesty question. When 2/3 of voters think you have committed a crime in your past life, and almost half of voters say it's a toss-up about whether you committed a crime while in the Oval Office, confidence in your overall integrity is very shaky, Malloy added. Added that Michael Cohen, a known liar, headed to the big house, has more credibility than the leader of the free world. American voters give Trump a negative 38 to 55% job approval rating compared to a negative 38 to 57% January 29th, last time Quinnipiac polled on this question, Dom. And voters say 65 to 30% that Trump's not honest. His worst grade ever on the character trait. He gets negative grades on other traits as well, Don, much like you. Let me read a few of them for the
Come on, you can't
See,
think
I
of
stuck
anything.
that in there.
I caught it, man.
I'm smooth as silk. I'm a smooth criminal, much like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Dominic, 39 to 58%. So 39% say yes, 58% say no, that Donald Trump has good leadership skills. 39, mirroring the same numbers, Dom. 39% say yes, 58% say no, that he cares about the average American. Now, that's an important polling question, I've always thought. It's hard to win re-election when only 39% of people think the president might care about someone like them, Dom. And 22 to 71%. 22 say yes, 71 say no, that Trump is a good role model for children. What Charles Barkley say once, I am not a role model.
Yes,
Well,
parents, your
apparently
kids may grow up to be president, but you probably don't want that. And briefly, Crudy, speaking of the kids, some polling here, same poll from Quinnipiac, but found this at the Hill. Young voters more likely to say Congress should begin impeachment hearings. The young and idealistic ones, Crudy. 42%.
Not old and jaded like you at this point.
42% of respondents between the ages of 18 and 34 said they should begin impeachment proceedings. 38% of those between 35 and 49 and 36% between 50 and 64 said Congress should start the impeachment process. Yes, young and idealistic. Hang on to it, kids. Don't let that go. Hold these bastards responsible. If we can't get away with it, they shouldn't be able to get away with it.
I am not a role model.
Brian, you
Well
rock.
done, Brian. You are a role model. You're my hero, fella. So,
I'm not paid to be a role model.
I'm not sure how Donald Trump makes his money precisely. Just, being an icon, I guess, Tom.
Selling the brand?
Selling the brand.
The Trump name?
The Trump name apparently added about $4 billion to his net worth one year, if you believe the allegations and apparently the records provided by Michael Cohen.
I believe it. I mean, the guy said himself, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, if he feels good about it, it's worth more that day. And if he doesn't feel good, well, maybe it's worth a little less.
So net worth based upon attitude, man. You must be negative net worth, man, because you've always got a bad attitude.
Come on.
We are the devil's
I'm
advocates.
optimistic. I'm hopeful. The cup is half full. The majority of Americans already think he's a crook. Now we just got to convince them that he should be pulled out of office for those reasons.
Well, we shall see, Dom. But this polling, I think it's, we talk about stunning. I don't mean to be hyperbolic. But when 64% of the United States, of the voters in the country, think that you are a criminal, that ain't so smooth. Come back with us. The phone lines, they're open. We're always smooth around here. We make it toll-free for you. Call or text, although I've never verified, text rates may apply. 844-967-2789. Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
We have to bring back law and order. That plays great before the election. Nah, we don't care.
Lock her up. Lock her up.
If it's possible, would you let me know, am I under investigation?
Lock her up.
It's all a big lie. It's a big con game.
It isn't true. Truth isn't true.
He called me fat and said I was going to die on the toilet.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Wisconsin. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again. 60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the political party line is always open for your take, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got a question for the audience. Is Dom a role model? Would you want your kids following in the example, the shallow footsteps of Dominic Salvia?
I would just say, kids, you can always do better.
Certainly they could. That is a low bar. I think everyone should aim higher than like 5'3".
Bring it. 844-967-2789. I will dunk on you at 5'3". Philip from Waukesha, you are up. Thanks for calling today, man. What do you got for us?
Hey, thanks, guys. Great polling. Hey, a couple things I wanted to make a point of. First of all, you were talking about Trump being a role model, and I would say that Donald Trump is the person you would not want to be. And as far as the first poll about the impeachment, I think the reason that most of the people don't want to impeach, even though he's a criminal, is they feel that with the Republicans in the Senate, there would be no chance of getting enough votes to do that. And it would kind of be like a waste of time. And I think they feel that he's going to get it in the end somehow.
Philip, you think the people are playing higher chess at home? I just think that older people remember Watergate, and they look at the Watergate hearings, and the actual impeachment never happened. It was the hearings, the weight of the evidence, convinced Republicans to go tell Nixon, do the right thing, tricky dick. And eventually he did, right? He left. Yeah. Well, I would say the American people are fearful of how divisive that might be to the nation. Some of us still remember, Bill Clinton getting impeached over a BJ.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that the thing that I look at is looking back at history. You look at Nixon, you look at Reagan, you look at these two guys especially, that they were worse than we thought they were. I mean, as far as with collusion, with Nixon colluding with the president of South Vietnam, and then Reagan paying off Khomeini to keep the hostages. And I think everybody knows that these, especially with Trump, we know this guy's a criminal. I mean, there's more and more stuff that we don't even know about.
Well, I think that's the point. And perhaps, Philip, I would not necessarily disagree with a vast majority of these folks. Yeah, we know he's a little shady, but we got to see more before we would say start impeaching now. But the fact that they already kind of have that lingering thought, that doubt in their mind. I mean, the guy lies all the time. People know that. And it's certainly reflective of his character. People know that. But we're already at this point, based on this current poll, without the Mueller report, without the Southern District of New York investigation concluding on the multiple arenas of which they are in, Philip. I just think it's not going to get any better, I guess I would say.
We're at the threshold of crimes, just not high crimes and misdemeanors yet, Philip.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And one more point, I want to see what if you think. I just thought of this. If you agree with me or you want to talk about it, but I was just thinking that a lot of these Trump people, we always say like, how can they support this guy? And I think what's happening is this guy is so bad. I mean, it's so disgusting that if they turn on him, I think then they have to admit that they're disgusting too because they supported this guy. And these people don't want to admit that. I mean, I remember there's a quote from Helen Keller that she says that, people don't like to make decisions because they could make the wrong decision. And I think these people realize, I mean, maybe in their subconscious that they made the wrong decisions, but they're in so deep that they have turned into Donald Trump because, with all the evil, and I'm not evil, but with all the criminal things that he's done, I mean, you can't go by a day when he does something wrong. I mean, the guy's just a total idiot. I mean, and you just look at this guy and he reeks of being a despicable person.
There's no better word than stupid.
Philip, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Let's sneak one more in this segment. Our pal, Mark from the Sack, although I can't reach Mark. Help me out, Dom.
Mark, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us today?
Hey, guys. I'm still trying to scrub the image of Trump molesting the flag out of my mind.
Yeah, that's a doozy, man. I still have it there, too.
And I think if he actually had started, just hold it out and started it with the flag, they'd still be cheering him. The bunch that he's with right now is just it's horrifying. I mean, what Jerry Falwell Jr. was suggesting that he would shoot Representative Cortez if she took his cows away. That pool boy Jerry Falwell Jr. I mean, the crop that Trump has following him now, I don't know if there's any level of debauchery that he could reach that would actually turn them off.
So, Mark, you're saying effectively the CPAC attendees, they're into flag porn.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I mean, I don't know. It just well, to some extent they are. I mean, they're worshiping the flag like it's an idol, and that's for Orthodox Christianity, that's kind of a bad thing. You're not supposed to have any graven images before God Himself. That level of hypocrisy there, but I mean, it just this group. I don't know when they are going to wake up. I mean, if they ever will wake up, because no.
Oh, sorry about that, Mark. Gotta get to break. Some of them will wake up, Mark. I guarantee it. Many of them will not. They will go to their grave supporting this guy because he's a racist just like they are.
What about the evangelicals? What's their rationalization? Love the sinner, hate the sin.
End of the world.
Haven't abandoned them yet. You haven't abandoned us. You better not come back. Join us on the phones. 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
We're like the stupid
Teens
people.
in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community, because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always
and Very told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? What did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. You know, Tom, I didn't know you had all
will be opening up, but also last year on the east side of Milwaukee, the Devil's Advocates and WRRD opened their stations on Brady Street.
Bring it home, Tom.
Wow. Amen. Well, I stayed up all night the night before my wedding, so I went out to a lot of watering holes not too far from there.
You're supposed to skip a night between the bachelor party and the wedding, sir.
I didn't get the memo. I wish we had done this interview 30 years ago.
Making radio great again.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. 11 top aides in the Evers administration are making at least 10% more than their predecessors under Governor Walker. A spokesperson for Governor Evers released a statement saying the governor, quote, believes in a fair compensation for the professionals who choose to serve our communities by working in local, state, and federal government. Former Attorney General Eric Holder will be visiting Wisconsin next week to stump for Judge Lisa Neubauer. Judge Neubauer is running for state Supreme Court, opposing Judge Brian Hagedorn to replace Supreme Court Justice Shirley Abrahamson. Holder is investing $350,000 to 2 groups helping Neubauer, Together Wisconsin Acts and Black Leaders Organizing Communities. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to 0. Wednesday highs in the low 20s and Thursday highs in the mid-20s.
Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we shared a little of the Quinnipiac. They stick a U in the middle. There's no U there as I see it, but according to the pronunciation guide, Dom, there's a U in there somehow. Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac? Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac. You know, I thought I was doing it just fine, and then I saw their pronunciation guide.
No.
I'm totally screwed up again. Here's what's crazy, Dom, and we're going to get to some articles. Jennifer Rubin, specifically at the Washington Post, she's been becoming rapidly a go-to columnist. This formerly described as conservative columnist, just an opinion columnist now, Dom. But let's talk about this polling for just a second. I'd like to hear from the audience. 64% of Americans say that Donald Trump committed a crime before he entered office. That's a big number. 45% of Americans believe that he has committed a crime while in office, yet 59% of Americans oppose impeachment now, Dom. How can that be? These numbers seem so incongruent. And, of course, he's got his defenders on the right, Dom, like a hell of a lot of Republican senators. Now, they may defeat or at least, slap him on the wrist for his emergency declaration. Rand Paul, perhaps up to 4 Republican senators, will stand with the Democrats, but, of course, he'll veto that. And they don't have the will to stand up to the president, the chief executive. Do they, Dom? These righties, these spineless frickin' righties?
Curdy, according to our friend Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post, Senate Republicans, cheap dates and small men. Oh, Jennifer, don't hold back.
Dominic, is she talking about you?
As of this writing, only 4 Senate Republicans, Susan Collins of Maine, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, have agreed to support the resolution ending President Trump's fraudulent emergency declaration. Tillis and Collins are up for re-election in 2020 in purple states, and Murkowski has been the least sycophantic Republican on major votes, ergo the repeal of Obamacare, confirmation of Kavanaugh. Only Rand Paul in this group would be described as a solid conservative who has supported Trump regularly on policy, but here takes a principled stance based on constitutional principles. Oh, sure, there are many more Republicans harumphing and mumbling about being uncomfortable with a blatant power grab, including staunch, self-proclaimed constitutional conservatives such as Senators James Inhofe of Oklahoma, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and moderates such as Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee. It remains unclear whether there will be any other votes to defend the Senate's core legislative function. The New York Times reporters, Senators Marco Rubio of Florida, Cruz of Texas, Mike Lee of Utah, have all voiced concern on the constitutional question, though none of them has explicitly promised to overturn the emergency declaration. Now, Cruz was just reelected, but with nearly 6 years before facing the electorate, he skedaddled whatever reporters pressed him for an answer. In fact, of the 6 I just listed, only Inhofe and Sasse would possibly be on the ballot in 2020. It's possible the fourth no vote from Paul will allow others to step forward. I'd like to think every Republican senator I've mentioned and more who should know better will follow Paul, but the majority, maybe the overwhelming majority of Republicans will, as they have on virtually everything else, stick with Trump. Why do Republicans, even ones in safe seats and ones not facing the voters for years, shed any semblance of principle to show mindless fidelity to Trump? It still amazes some voters. It shouldn't. These are not political giants. You'll find no Senator J. William Fulbright or Hubert Humphrey in this crowd. Senator John McCain died in 2018, the last lawmaker distinguished by his consistent refusal to put party above country and by his contempt for spineless courtiers. The Republicans who populate the Senate cannot imagine losing their perch. They live in fear of becoming politically irrelevant. They fear the wrath of the entire right-wing machine, which includes Trump, Fox News, radio talk show hosts, right-wing billionaire donors, utterly corrupt evangelical conservative leaders, and intellectually hypocritical think tankers, Crute.
Dominic, such lawmakers will do just about anything to stay in the right wing's good graces, which they perceive as essential to their retention of power. Some, like Rubio, had brushes with heresy, but now have returned to servility. The overwhelming number of Republicans do not believe they can defend themselves if they were to act independently or fear even risking it. They generally know that what Trump is saying is bunk, in parentheticals it states, whether it is Trump's latest conspiracy theory about the FBI or some Uber theory of executive power or his fear-mongering about immigrants. Back to the body of the piece. But they understand Trump's grip on the base and figure it's easier to echo Trump, snow voters whom they consider incapable of independent thought, and just regurgitate the same garbage Trump spews. Maybe Paul will shame a few into supporting the resolution. However, I fear that Elliot Cohen is on the money when he writes. They know in their timid breast that they would have howled with indignation if Barack Obama had declared a national emergency in such a circumstance. As they stare at their coffee cup at breakfast, the thought occurs to them that a future left-wing president could make dangerous use of the same powers because Speaker Nancy Pelosi rubbed that fact in their face. Some of the brighter ones might even realize that emergency powers are a favorite tool of authoritarians everywhere. But they are afraid. They're afraid of being primaried. They're afraid of being called out by a bully whom they secretly despise, but to whom they pledge public fealty. They're afraid of having to find another occupation than serving an elective office. And most conceited of the lot, and there are quite a few of these, perhaps more in the Senate than in the House, think it would be a tragedy if the country no longer had their service at its disposal. Now back to Rubin's writing. You can call such polls them overly ambitious, but I wish their ambition was much grander. If only they yearned to make history, to walk in McCain's footsteps, they might get a line in history books. Unfortunately, if they are remembered at all, it will be for their docility in the face of an authoritarian president and for their willingness to disregard their oaths for the security of another term or a gig on Fox News after retirement or a cheesy award from some right-wing group. These are cheap dates and small men. And Dominic, in this case, I don't think she means you. I
don't think she's talking about their height. I think she's talking about their moxie. I think she's talking about their ability to stand up, represent their people, represent this institution, right? The Senate, the very distinguished Senate. And they roll over to this guy who the majority of Americans think's a criminal. And the majority, most of them, once the Mueller report comes out, the Southern District wraps up their investigations, the multiple committee investigations in the House, it's not going to get any better. Jump ship now, Republicans. Stand up, have a spine. Talking to you, Ron Johnson.
Maybe go spend a little more time with family. Come back. We are the Devil's Advocates. The phone lines, they are open for you and toll free at 844-967-2789. We'll be right back. WRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 AM. You're listening right now.
Hey, what happened?
My party is going bat crazy.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
When Trump gets to the guillotine, you're going to be the first one to go.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Wisconsin high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates. The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones. Toll free, the political party line, talk or text is 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we've heard twice from Trump in the last 48 hours. Presidential harassment, that's about the only thing he has said publicly. Signed an executive order. We'll bring you a little bit of that sound later in this big show. But Dom, Salon.com, a piece, Heather Digby Parton, Trump's presidential harassment is just starting, and the Republicans brought this on themselves. Republicans lied about Hillary Clinton and covered up for Trump for 2 years. Now they'll reap the whirlwind. I read from the piece, Tom. During the last month of 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump took to issuing a stern warning to America about what they could expect to face if Hillary Clinton were to be elected president. In Cedar Rapids, Iowa, he noted the reopening of the email case and called it the biggest political scandal since Watergate. In Miami, he told the crowd if Hillary Clinton were to be elected, it would create an unprecedented and protracted constitutional crisis. Haven't we just been through a lot with the Clintons, right? Later in Orlando, he upped the ante, saying Hillary is likely to be under investigation for many years, probably concluding in a criminal trial. 2 days later in Denver, Trump made the argument even more explicit. Her current scandals and controversies will continue throughout her presidency, and we will make it honestly look, it's going to be virtually impossible for her to govern. Now the Republicans have talked very tough, and the Democrats, it's going to be just another mess for another 4 years, folks. A mess. We got to get back to work, right? I mean, we've got to get back to work. Now, you know how people love it when I do the Trump voice, Dom. I'll get back to the author's words. He wasn't the only one making this argument. Republicans were basically telling the country if Clinton were to be elected, they would make her life a living hell. Rep. Jason Chaffetz of Utah, then slated to be the next chairman of the House Oversight Committee, told the Washington Post, and here's a quote, Tom, even before we get to day one, we've got 2 years worth of material already lined up. She has 4 years of history at the State Department, and it ain't good. House Speaker Paul Ryan backed him up, and the GOP candidates across the land gleefully promised to begin investigations immediately. On the day before the presidential election, the Post reported that Republicans were already planning an impeachment inquiry. Chairman from an inset, Dom, chairman of 2 congressional committees said in media interviews this week they believe Clinton committed impeachable offenses in setting up and using a private email server for official State Department business. How quaint that crime seems in comparison. Were it a crime, Dom? And a third senior Republican, the chairman of the House Judiciary Subcommittee, told the Washington Post he is personally convinced Clinton should be impeached for influence peddling involving her family foundation. He favors further congressional investigation into that matter. And Dom, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, had already made up his mind, telling his local paper, and here's a quote from Rojo, I would say yes, high crime or misdemeanor, I believe she is in violation of both laws. Rep. Michael McCall, a Republican from Texas, chair of the Homeland Security Committee, said he believed Clinton had committed treason with her email server. This was a very effective campaign tactic, and I would guess that more than a few voters were concerned. Republicans made it very clear that if Clinton won, they were preparing to launch the political equivalent of a nuclear war. If people wanted to avoid that, they should probably vote for Trump and skip all the unpleasantries. On the day of Trump's inauguration, we were there, Dom. Chaffetz posted a picture of himself shaking hands with Hillary Clinton at the ceremony and captioned it this way, so pleased she's not the president. I thanked her for her service and wished her luck. The investigation continues. For mysterious reasons, Chaffetz soon gave up his seat in Congress, but Republicans carried on. The Oversight Committee spent most of their time during the next 2 years blocking and covering for Trump and Russia investigation, but they've kept up their insinuations about Clinton. Trump's ecstatic crowds still chant, lock her up, lock her up, at the mere mention of her name. I mention all of this ancient history just to put in context all the absurd whining and caterwauling by the president and his minions over what he has taken to calling presidential harassment. They can dish it out, but they sure can't take it. I'm afraid they're going to have to buckle up because their turn in hell has finally come. And I read on, Don, briefly. Last week's astonishing testimony by former Trump Organization Executive Vice President Michael Cohen was just the opener. On Monday, the House Judiciary Committee sent out requests to 81 different Trump associates asking for documents pertaining to a dozen different scandals that were bottled up by Republicans in the last Congress, all pointing to possible abuse of power and obstruction of justice by the president and his henchmen. These requests went out to virtually every name the media has mentioned in relation to the 2016 Trump campaign and the Trump organization, as well as the White House and various GOP outside actors. They're asking for information regarding contacts with Russians, plural. You know that's plural, Dom.
Yes.
Trump's private meeting with Vladimir Putin, the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting, the Trump Tower Moscow project, Cambridge Analytica, foreign emoluments, hush money, pardon, sanctions, and much more. And that was just from Rep. Jerry Nadler's Judiciary Committee. The Intelligence, Finance, Foreign Affairs, Ways and Means, and Oversight Committees are also following their own leads, which include the issues with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump's security clearances. Now, my understanding, the White House, denying the documents today, Dom, that was breaking news earlier, and the Trump Organization's Deutsche Bank loans and the president's tax returns. The White House calls this a fishing expedition, but that's not correct. The whole country has been watching these scandals unfold in the press while the authorities operate, as they should, without comment. The evidence is out there, but the press cannot compel people to speak, nor can they put the whole story in context. At this point, we don't even know when or if Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on Russia probe will be fully revealed to the public. This is Congress's doing. I'm sorry, it jumped around on me here. This is Congress doing its job at long last with this president. It's a very big job. And Dominic, I'm going to bring it to conclusion. I came this far. I don't need
Yeah,
you,
man, bring it home.
The Republican House did absolutely no oversight of the Trump administration in its first 2 years, making a mockery of its constitutional duties. From every point of view, including sheer politics, that was a big mistake. Had they even attempted a pretense of oversight of the White House, the Category 5 hurricane that just hit the administration might have been downgraded to a tropical storm. Instead, the president is going into his re-election campaign not only facing the results of criminal investigations from the special counsel and various U.S. attorneys, but also dealing with an onslaught of pent-up inquiries from Congress, assuming that Trump is on the ballot in 2020. And, Dom, I know you don't make that assumption. Don't be surprised to hear the Democratic nominee on the stump saying, stop moving, phone. No, saying, and here's a quote, Tom, it's going to be just another mess for another 4 years, folks. A mess. We got to get back to work, right? I mean, we have to get back to work. That person will be right. The long list of investigations the Democrats have launched at long last is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, music to my ears. Well done, Crudy. And
Trump's presidential harassment is just starting, and Republicans brought this on themselves. Salon.com, Heather Digby Parton.
How soon we forget. And I really appreciate this article, and I think someone had emailed this to us. Thank you for that. We like to, get correspondence with all you folks out there. There's a lot of news. It was Lynn. I think it was Lynn, yeah. There's a lot of news out there. We can't get to it all on our own, so thank you for the heads up on some of these. But the Republicans were all set, already gearing to go. Remember, a lot of people thought Hillary was going to win, right?
If you believe the writing in the New Yorker yesterday, Roger Ailes did. Hell, some say Donald Trump did.
And they had no problem. They had no issue, including Senator Ron Johnson, our pal from Wisconsin here, about getting ready to get some investigations going. And now, of course, fast forward a couple of years, of course, Trump won, and now Trump's all over this presidential harassment. But what I don't hear are guys like Ron Johnson coming to his defense specifically. But we know there's a lot of weakness in this Senate. I just don't see it.
Come on, man. Johnson's still a no on impeachment. We've had this conversation before. Ron is never going to be a yes on impeachment, not for his team, right? He's a homer. He's all about the home team. And Donald Trump, he got his guy. He got his two Supreme Court nominees. I mean, this was the very same party that held back and did not allow Barack Obama to get a Supreme Court seat. Dom, are you freaking kidding me? Have we ever seen that sort of action? Is that unprecedented? And if progressives on the left say, hey, let's go stack the Supreme Court, because the Constitution does not define how many Supreme Court justices there can be. I think the next presidential election, when, let's say, Bernie Sanders is the president, How'd you like to see Bernie Sanders roll out about 4 different picks in a row, and we see the makeup of the court suddenly flip with a bunch of stacked liberal justices? That's going to sting a little, too. You're going to remember Merrick Garland then.
As long as he doesn't do it under a fraudulent emergency declaration. 844-967-2789. Got a few more minutes in this hour. Let's get some callers in. Wisco Paul, you are next. Happy Fat Tuesday, Paul. What do you got for us?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. As always, GOP basically got out of Trump everything they wanted. The Supreme Court, lifetime appointments to the federal court system. So they've gotten a lot out of the guy. Although I think you guys can disagree with me. The guns, God, gays thing, and then you mix in some racism with it. Don't you think that's kind of wearing thin with the voters?
Depends on which voters you mean. What I think many people that supported Donald Trump, Paul, they feel economic insecurity, and I don't think that's changed not a hell of a lot. I know the unemployment rate is down, but so many people have seen stagnating wages. I don't think a vote for Donald Trump was a vote so much for crazy as it was a vote for change. Paul, people wanted to break the stalemate, the logjam. They hadn't gotten a raise in 30 years, and Donald Trump made a lot of big promises, going to bring back clean coal,
everybody's going to have insurance.
Jobs.
Everyone's going to have insurance. I mean, this guy promised all sorts of things. He walked into these big rallies and made all sorts of big promises about bringing manufacturing back and making sure everybody had insurance. And, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. You can go on and on, Paul, but it was all a bunch of BS. And at the end of the day, I think those people, be it, the hardcore conservatives are never going to leave him, man. They're going to vote R no matter what.
You're never going to trick conservatives with facts. Thanks for the call, Paul.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, you could have said something more funny.
Thank you, Paul. 844-967-2789. But, Curdy,
hey, don't confuse us for your wife, Paul. We don't give you the quick hook.
I absolutely agree, Curdy. The economic disparities that are being felt by so many Republicans. If you didn't know a lot, remember how many people got engaged in this election cycle, and you come out and you see this guy, he's a huckster on television, he says all the right things you want to hear, insurance, work, jobs, hell yeah, we're about it, and you didn't know about all the past, you didn't know about the dealings, you didn't know about the Trump Tower he was negotiating at the time he was saying those things.
Dominic, one of the most stunning numbers I've heard all year, 7.5% of Wisconsin dairy farmers have left the business in the last year.
That's terrible.
We've got a rural crisis going on. Come back, more Devil's Advocates on the other side.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
They're trying to take you out with bullshit. It's called presidential harassment.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at Real Resistance.
Americans versus Americans, reaching out to vets. I'm Mike Moss. FBI Director Christopher Wray says foreign influence campaigns continue to try to divide Americans.
Using social media, but lots of other techniques as well, to sow divisiveness and discord, to pit Americans against each other, to undermine our faith in democracy. And that continues. And we're gearing up for it to continue and grow again for 2020.
Wray says he's been shocked most by the Chinese counterintelligence threat. He also cites threats from Russia, Iran, and North Korea. President Trump has signed a measure aimed at creating a federal task force to tackle how agencies can help prevent veteran suicides.
Through today's action, I am launching the Prevents Initiative, the President's roadmap to empower veterans and end the national tragedy of suicide.
Trump called the epidemic of veteran suicides a tragedy of staggering proportions. The White House is denying a request from the House Oversight Committee for information on how security clearances are granted. Correspondent Manu Raju with the White House response.
It says we will not concede the executive's constitutional prerogatives or allow the committee to jeopardize the individual privacy rights of current and former executive branch employees. And it also refers to this as a radically intrusive demand.
Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg has decided not to run for president. Correspondent Christina Alessi.
He does not want to stay silent, though. He really feels passionately that he can make a difference in this particular race. And he's going to do that, I'm hearing from sources, by putting together essentially an operation to help the eventual Democrat candidate.
Bloomberg says if he ran, he could beat President Trump. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 13, S&P down 3.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
491 Bible.
The Sacramento, California officers involved in the shooting death of Stephon Clark will not be criminally charged. Correspondent Jim Roop reports.
State Attorney General Javier Becerra says this was a thorough investigation independent of the DA's office, which reached the same conclusion.
Based on those objective facts, we make a determination of what the officers were perceiving and how they could act.
Becerra says from the evidence, Clark came out from behind a picnic table with an object in his hand, later found to be a phone, and began advancing toward the officers. The officers shouted for him to stop, repeatedly shouted, "Show your hands," then gun, as Clark continued toward them. Becerra says the officers were justified in fearing for their safety and firing. I'm Jim Roop.
Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Scott Gottlieb is stepping down after nearly 2 years leading the agency and its response to public health challenges, including the opioid epidemic. President credited him with an increase in the number of generic medicines.
As humans, we ask ourselves all kinds of questions. But what if we were forced to ask ourselves a question every day that affected the outcome of the most basic things? The most important things in our lives. The question is, what is your sexual orientation or gender identity? And the answer is the difference between keeping your job or getting fired. The answer is the difference between staying in your home or getting evicted. The answer is the difference between receiving medical treatment or not. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against people based on their answer to this question. LGBT Americans have the right to say "I do," but they don't have the same basic rights as everyone else. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
For
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. 11 top aides in the Evers administration are making at least 10% more than their predecessors under Governor Walker. A spokesperson for Governor Evers released a statement saying the governor, quote, believes in a fair compensation for the professionals who choose to serve our communities by working in local, state, and federal government. A UW-Milwaukee professor has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault and 1 count of fourth-degree sexual assault. And the Bucks lost to the Suns in Phoenix yesterday, 105-114. Bucks are off until Thursday when they return home to face the Pacers. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to 0. Wednesday highs in the low 20s and Thursday highs in the mid-20s. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, sliding into hour 2, Dom, and I think it's time for an update of the ever-expanding Dem presidential field. We've got a few new entrants to the race, Dom.
Crudy, are you going to announce here? Are you running?
I am not yet ready to make an announcement one way or the other on the presidential race, but a couple of candidates have at least, actually I got like 4 updates at minimum, Dom. Couple of governors. We got Hickenlooper from Colorado and Jay Inslee from Washington. They both jumped in the race, Dom. Both governors from legal marijuana states. I'd point that out to you.
Well, I don't think Hickenlooper was a real advocate when it first came around. I think he eventually came around, but all right. But why? I mean, why?
Dominic, we've also got some firm no's. We've had a few hard no's today. Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, he's out. I wish you'd take Howard Schultz with him. The billionaire class, seems like we've been there, done that. I don't want to see either of those white men in the race. Jeff Merkley, U.S. Senator, apparently he's going to concentrate on his re-election efforts. Merkley's a no, and I've had the opportunity to meet Jeff Merkley, Dom. Came into the studios back at the old place in Madison. What he was doing here, he must have been surrogating on behalf of Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure why else he would have come in studio. Eric Holder, he's a no. And we've had him in the studio in Milwaukee as well. He's going to be back in Wisconsin 14th and the 15th of March. My understanding, Eric Holder is going to concentrate his efforts, at least in small part, Dom, on getting Lisa Neubauer elected to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They have pledged like $350,000. Our race, and I believe a race in Texas, Holder's going to concentrate his immediate efforts not running for the presidency. And there was a really big no today. Hillary Clinton, once and for all, she's not running for the presidency of the United States, Dom. And I think many, many, many people had a big sigh of relief.
Well, very divisive, that one. Holder, no. Merkley, no. Bloomberg, no. Clinton, no. And Biden didn't do very well today on, what, it was some CNN focus group?
We'll get there in a moment. Let me at least read briefly from the Hill.com's reporting on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is officially out as a 2020 presidential candidate, but that doesn't mean she'll be invisible in the Democratic primary and the general election. Sources close to Clinton say the 2000 will seek to be an active presence in the race by fundraising, working to unify a splintered party, and even making an endorsement when the time is right, do you think she'll get behind Bernie down?
Fundraising, unity, and an endorsement from Clinton. Well, I know she's good at fundraising. I'm not clear on the unity part of that. And it will certainly. I mean, she obviously a very accomplished woman and still carries some weight within the party. No question about that. So her endorsement will matter.
It will have heft, do you think, Tom?
I think it will.
Here's a quote from the Hill article. The trajectory is to do what she did in 2018 and more, said one longtime Clinton friend, adding that she is still figuring out the best ways to be helpful. Here's a quote. I think that she is in a position to help the party come together, and depending on how things play out, that is something she can do sooner than when she secured the nomination in 2016. If Democratic voters and activists start to coalesce around someone early, she can play an important role in bringing candidates together around that individual. Sources say a primary endorsement could be on the table too, though it's unclear when that might happen. Here's another quote. I imagine she would, but the difference between the week before Iowa and April 7th, that's Wisconsin, Dom. And if we believe some of the polling, there are a few clear favorites early in the field, Dom. There are some polling, new polling out today on the Democratic presidential field specifically, and Joe Biden's doing just fine in this one. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders lead the 2020 Dem field, followed by Kamala Harris, Tom.
What poll is that?
Former vice, according to a new poll released Tuesday by the Morning Consult poll, former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders are leading the rest of Democratic presidential primary field by double digits.
Ooh.
Biden, who is yet to announce whether he will enter the 2020 race, leads the pack with 31%, the survey found. Coming in a close second is Sanders with 27%. Feel the burn amongst Democratic primary voters. And as mentioned, I think I mentioned it, Bernie Sanders has made a pledge. He's running as a Democrat. I thought he already made that pledge, but anyways, has made the pledge again. It's apparently newsworthy. And the poll results signal that if Biden enters the race, he's likely to emerge as a frontrunner in an otherwise crowded primary contest. It also suggests that Sanders, who announced his second bid for the White House last month, has early momentum among the very voters he'll need to court if he hopes to win the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020. And the Morning Consult poll shows Senator Kamala Harris from California, respectively. Now, I think Beto O'Rourke's getting in as well. My understanding is he's made a decision and he hasn't told people, if you're not running, that's an easy one. I'm not running. I've just decided I'm not going to run, right? That's an easy decision. Doesn't need a build-up or a not running announcement. You can pretty much do that on Twitter, right? So I would expect Beto O'Rourke will also be in this race, Dom. As the Hill reports, O'Rourke has not yet said whether he'll mount a presidential campaign. Crudy says yes, he will, though he's expected to do so soon. Yeah, I expect exactly that, Dom. And when it comes to Democratic primary voters in the 4 early voting states, Iowa, we're going to be there. New Hampshire, intend to be there. South Carolina, no way, Dom, I'm not sneaking weed into South Carolina, man. And Nevada, Biden and Sanders have even more support with 34 and 29%, respectively. Harris takes 8% among voters in those states, according to the Morning Consult polling, Dom.
Wow. I mean, that's a
and
huge
it's a big
Biden.
field.
That's a big gap. Biden at 31 on the Consult, 27 Sanders, Harris 11, Warren 7, O'Rourke at 6.
But I just want to point out the sample size of this polling currently, about 12,560 registered voters, online sampling, but that's still a very big number. You would assume that, lowers the margin of error. It's plus or minus 1%.
Crudy, we mentioned it before. Joe Biden, also from the Hill, a CNN focus group comprised of Democratic voters has rejected former Vice President Joe Biden as their presidential nominee. Now, this is a guy...
How do you reject Uncle Joe Biden? Did he come up and rub the shoulders, without asking, Dom? What did he do to turn off this focus group?
The focus group's dismissal of Biden is notable since the former vice president, who is expected to join the Democratic primary soon, has been leading in a number of public opinion polls and is seen as the potential front-runner. The Democrats gathered by CNN, however, said they weren't interested in Biden. Some said they wanted a candidate who was further to the left. I think we need a bold, strong leadership, and you'll find that in the Progressives' Democratic voter Carol Evans said. We had the standard bearer for the kind of pragmatic centrist candidate in Hillary Clinton in 2016, and Donald Trump is now president. He's not your average political candidate, so we really need to try to think outside the box because, it seems like the dude is made of rubber. Anything you throw at him just bounces off. There's nothing that sticks, said focus group member Michael Milisitz. Several progressives, including Sanders and Warren, have entered the race. The focus group was moderated by New Day co-anchor Allison Camerata at the CNN New York City bureau. When she asked if any of the focus group members would like Biden to enter the race, none of the 6 people raised their hands. His time is done, Evans said.
6 people, that's not a huge focus group. I mean, they could have had 20 in the room, or 50, or 12,000.
I will be honest.
They would have needed a bigger room.
He was riding the Obama wave, and I thought he was a person who would unite the party. But to be honest, Senator Biden really comes from the kind of good old boy politics of the past. Democrat Russell Banks said, I don't think Joe Biden represents that new thing that we need. We need a new economy, we need new politics, and we need someone different, Democrat Owens Evans added.
But Uncle Joe is like an old shoe, Dom. Even my wife, and, I don't often go to her for political advice, but, I do like to take her temperature every now and again. She points out Joe Biden would be a good, solid pick for the Democrats. Joe Biden wouldn't face the same sort of misogyny that Hillary Clinton faced. Joe Biden is a well-known quantity. Joe Biden, perhaps a little gaffe-prone. We all know that Biden, tends to say a few inopportune things. Well, you and I have both been guilty of that on occasion.
Come on.
What
are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sometimes things happen.
But ultimately, I would say that Joe Biden just doesn't warm my cockles, Tom. We saw Joe Biden. We broadcast Joe Biden live. And he's got a weird rhetorical thing. He gets very, very quiet.
Well, I mean, we were in a small venue when we saw him that particular time. A small venue of
maybe 1,500. I mean, that's not a terribly small venue. We were at the UW-Milwaukee campus. We've also seen Joe Biden in lacrosse.
Didn't we see him at the Union? Wasn't he at the Union thing, Union Hall not so long ago? We broadcast from there. It wasn't a huge room. And
but I was in both rooms that day, so perhaps I had an experience. You're always getting left out of experiences, Don.
Well, I do what I can, Curdy. But I don't know. I mean, I think he's a fairly safe bet. But I don't know if people want safe. I think people want change. And I think there's going to be a pendulum swinging from what we have and what we just went through in 2016 to something very different. He might be a safe pick, but he's not the exciting pick.
Well, if it's Trump or Uncle Joe Biden, no doubt most Americans will favor Uncle Joe Biden. One would think he might win back Scranton. He might win back Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. He might win back some of those upper Midwest states. But ultimately, I want to be inspired. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates will try to inspire you to call us at 844-967-2789. You got a favorite so far? Is it Uncle Joe?
Time to be an adult. You're president.
Let me just say, they are a breath of fresh air.
It's too old.
I'm an old man. I'm confused.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You listen to Kick-Ass Radio, why not have a kick-ass haircut? Get a hold of Stephanie Jude at MKE Shears. Call or text at 414-241-9734 to book your appointment. Specializing in men's haircuts and styling the East Side for years, Stephanie Jude will give you that kick-ass haircut you deserve. Book your appointment by text or call 414-241-9734. Stop by at 1690 North Franklin and ask for Stephanie Jude at MKE Shears. Tell her the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, pushing them to identify with black culture? I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world. Black people. I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon.
Say, man, you got a joint?
No, not on me, man.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Party line is open. You can join us toll free, talk or text. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, when you got a big old primary field, we had that recently in the state of Wisconsin, dim gubernatorial field. My attitude would have been the first one to go out there and claim I am the legal marijuana candidate would have had my vote. Certainly it would have been an avocation I would have made as a candidate, and I think whoever is the next dim nominee for the president of the United States needs to lead with that avocation. You want to inspire some new voters? Get some stoners up off the couch. Advocate for legalizing
listen
marijuana.
to you stereotyping the stoners.
I'm just talking about young people. I'm not talking about experienced, lifelong, longitudinal study kind of stoners like ourselves, Dom. We vote every time. I'm talking about the young kids, the millennials, the 22-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, the kids that think it's unjust that the government tells them that they are prohibited from using a flower, from using a plant that is not harmful to their bodies, Dom. But, drinking booze, that's just fine, right? Well, at some point, the millennials want change, and it needs to be a federal change. Because I've talked to friends in the CBD business. I talked to Brian Simonson and his wife earlier today. You know what? Even CBD, legal in the state of Wisconsin, the non-THC having oil, the derivative of the hemp plant. But you know what? You still can't bank at most banks if they know what you're doing for a living. You still can't process those purchases on a credit card. Not until the federal government changes something, right? So it's time for the Democratic Party to look at their own platform and realize this party, as a party, supposedly, both here in the state of Wisconsin and I believe nationally, stands for the legalization of marijuana. And if you want to be that candidate for the Dems, you better get out there. You better be strong and clear. You better not say, well, I smoked some in college, but
I didn't inhale. I mean, all right, so let's talk about that for a moment.
I don't want that sort of half-stepping.
Now, Bernie Sanders, to my understanding, has come out and very specifically stated he's for the legalization of marijuana. Is that your understanding?
Cory Booker has a legislative piece as well. I believe many of the senators have gotten on board with his piece. So I like Cory Booker's avocation as such, and I think if anyone wants to win, you better get out there with Cory Booker and Bernie Sanders. I think Elizabeth Warren in that camp, Kamala Harris, has advocated for legalizing marijuana, but they all should be. And I'm not sure that Joe Biden would be there with us. I mean, hell, Barack Obama wasn't advocating for legalized marijuana, and that guy used marijuana, admittedly, in his own autobiography, Don. Yeah, I can use it, and it was okay for me, but can't legalize the stuff.
So is it your understanding other Kamala Harris, you believe, has come out and said she's for specifically legalizing marijuana.
Yeah, I heard her say she smoked marijuana in college. Hell, the big issue was, did she listen to Tupac and Biggie while she was in college? Because she suggested she'd smoke some weed, and they'd say, and what music did you listen to? She got put on some morning show, an urban morning show out of New York. I believe it's an iHeart product. Charlemagne the God is the well-known host of that program, and he asked her, did you smoke marijuana? And she said, yes, I did. And he asked her, well, what kind of music did you listen to? And she said Tupac and Biggie, I believe. And those artists had not released records when she was in college. So, apparently it's a scandal, Dom.
She was listening to music that had not been released yet.
Apparently, any true stoner.
Oh man, we were in college. It was grunge and hip hop. It was a great time.
Oh, it was music. Dr. Dre though.
Yeah, it was Dre all day.
What got played late at
Snoop.
night? What got the mirrors and the pictures bouncing on the walls? It was the bass from the Dre CD, man, because it was all CDs back then.
Classic. All right,
but wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
No, but wasn't Kamala Harris? Wasn't she a prosecutor?
She was.
And did she put anybody in jail for weed?
I'm sure over the course of her
And do
career
you think
she
that's a problem?
As probably has Amy Klobuchar and a few others, because many of them were prosecutors, Tom. Depends. Have you moved beyond? Are you willing to take it up on the federal level? Are you willing to legalize it? And so far she has stated, yeah, that's her intent.
Are you willing to clear the records of anybody that you may have prosecuted and stuck in jail for marijuana?
State she came from, California, has already done that. My understanding, they're going back 40 years. Any marijuana convictions expunged 40 years back, Tom. I think that's a good start. And may clear my books. Maybe. Maybe.
I don't know. I think I'm with you. Absolutely. Any Dem I'm going to vote for would have to. I mean, at this point, they all got it. Whoever's going to get my vote has to be for legalizing marijuana. Full stop. Period. And we're so ass backwards here in the state of Wisconsin. But hopefully, those on the federal level, because that's where it needs to change, we can get some progress on this issue. But I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard for me to, believe someone like Harris after she potentially may have prosecuted. We've got to do a little more research on this. I'm not clear what her stance was as a prosecutor.
Didn't Hillary Clinton call young black males super predators once upon a time?
I believe she did.
So, I mean, is any Democrat who ever was a prosecutor or ever was, quote-unquote, tough on crime to try and win an election, anyone that ever advocated against marijuana use, do we write them all off, Tom? Because we'll start narrowing that Dem field real quick.
Is there a purity test? I mean, for me, weed's one of them, man. I mean, there's just so many levels of hypocrisy in this particular issue that's so reflective of the issues we have in a country. If we can't handle that one, we're not going to be able to address anything else.
Dom, do they personally have to have consumed marijuana and
no, of course
be forthright and candid in their admission?
No, don't care if they do or don't, but it's none of the government's business if I do.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. We're doing dirty stuff. Dirty stuff. 844-967-2789. Still illegal here.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
It may not require a textbook, but it's filled with valuable lessons. It may not take place in a classroom, but it's an ideal environment for learning. It may not involve a diploma, but it can help prepare Wisconsin's young people for life. It's high school sports. High school sports can play a critical role in a student's overall education. In fact, studies show that students that participate in high school sports are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in their academic lives. If you think high school sports are only about competition, think again. Better yet, think about attending a high school sporting event in your community. You'll be amazed by what you see. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white, and I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. Former Attorney General Eric Holder will be visiting Wisconsin next week to stump for Judge Lisa Neubauer. Judge Neubauer is running for state Supreme Court, opposing Judge Brian Hagedorn to replace Supreme Court Justice Shirley Abrahamson. Holder is investing $350,000 to two groups helping Neubauer, Together Wisconsin Acts and Black Leaders Organizing Communities. And the Bucks lost to the Suns in Phoenix yesterday, 105-114. Bucks are off until Thursday when they return home to face the Pacers. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to zero. Wednesday highs in the low 20s and Thursday highs in the mid-20s. For Real Resistance Radio, happy Punchki Day.
Our 420 break, Dom, and we'll get back to the phones. Nick, be patient for just a moment. You want to be stoner, 844-967-2789. Dom, I got a little piece here at the antimedia.com. Not a source we often quote, but on marijuana policy, I feel okay going here. New Senate bill would legalize marijuana nationwide and erase possession charges. This was the legislative piece I referenced, March 3rd, 2019, this published. A group of Democrats are hoping that they can roll back the war on drugs with a new federal marijuana legalization bill. Dubbed the Marijuana Justice Act of 2019, the bill would see marijuana finally removed from the federal list of controlled substances, legalizing the plant on a nationwide level and removing a range of obstacles from vendors and purveyors across the United States. The bill would also, and this I think an important part, Dom, as you mentioned, the bill would also expunge the criminal records of anyone who had been charged with possession, while also calling for anyone currently incarcerated for the offense to petition for an immediate resentencing. Those convicted under prohibition laws would also be provided job training and resources under the act. Well, Dom, we might need a whole new host of farmers as well. The bill was introduced by New Jersey Democratic Senator and presidential hopeful Cory Booker and Democratic California Representative Barbara Lee and Ro Khanna. Booker's presidential competitors, Senators Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, told you so, and Elizabeth Warren, are also co-sponsors of the bill. Now, Bernie Sanders tweeted out on this topic, 600,000 people, disproportionately people of color, were arrested for possession of marijuana in 2017. 600,000 people nationwide, Dom. As Bernie says, it's time to decriminalize marijuana, expunge past marijuana convictions, and end the failed war on drugs. And back to the body of the anti-media piece. Supporters of the bill have cited the disproportionate impact of cannabis prohibitionist laws on historically oppressed nationalities and communities across the United States, leading to the prosecution and jailing of largely nonviolent cannabis users. In her statement on the bill published by the National Organization for the Reform of the Marijuana Laws, Norma Lee stated, in addition to incentivizing states to legalize marijuana, the Marijuana Justice Act seeks to repair some of the damage marijuana prohibition has done to this country's most vulnerable communities. For those communities that have been economically and socially disenfranchised by overcriminalization and cyclical incarceration, this legislation provides funding to programs focused on youth development, citizen reentry, job training, health education, and funding for community resources such as public libraries and community centers. Booker similarly derided the war on drugs, tweeting, "The failed war on drugs has really been a war on people, disproportionately criminalizing poor people, people of color, and people with mental illness. I'm reintroducing the hashtag Marijuana Justice Act to begin reversing our failed federal drug policies." And the conclusion of this, Tom, Booker has long enjoyed a record of fighting to reform marijuana laws, having introduced a version of the Marijuana Justice Act in 2017. He has promised the federal legalization will be a major focus of his campaign, along with criminal justice reform, which he has remarked, and this is a quote, means changing our drug laws, ending prohibition against marijuana, end quote. Now, there's more to this, Tom. Let's just say the ACLU believes in legalization.
I have a little bit here I want to add as well. Then we'll get to the phone calls at 844-967-2789. This from the San Francisco Chronicle. Joe Garofoli, February 11th of this year. Kamala Harris, one-time weed opponent, says legalize it, and she's inhaled. And I'll jump in the body. Here's what she said. "I think it gives people joy, and we need a lot more joy in the world." Harris wanted to be clear that she fully supports legalization. "Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?" said Harris, whose father was born in Jamaica, her mother born in India. And the San Francisco Chronicle writes, a quick reality check here. Harris didn't back legalizing cannabis for recreational use until last year, 2 years after California voters did. She also opposed a statewide ballot measure to legalize weed in 2010 when she was San Francisco's district attorney and running to be the state attorney general. Harris called that proposal flawed public policy. Harris acknowledged during Monday's show that she has concerns about cannabis. If it were legalized on the federal level, then, quote, "we can research the impact of weed on a developing brain," she said. Plus, she said there needs to be a reliable way to measure the impairment of drivers after they use cannabis. So, a little late to the party, Kamala Harris.
Well, and considering she has personally admitted her own consumption of marijuana, of cannabis, Don.
I wonder if she was prosecuting other users while she was using. You know, those kinds of questions matter,
well, Don,
man.
She was in college, if you believe the time frame she sets forth, but one must question the prescient musical days. How did she fast forward?
So she hasn't smoked since college. So she smoked in college, wasn't prosecuted, and then went forward and became attorney general in California, opposing what her fellow citizens in California wanted.
As I pointed out, Dom, Barack Obama, who also acknowledged being part of the Choon gang and smoking weed, well, he didn't favor legalization of marijuana either, not in 2008, not in 2012.
And he was wrong then. And Kamala Harris, I mean, granted, at least she came around, but what, are you going to continue to forgive? I mean, this looks very political, like it's a political opportunity for someone who, just a couple of years ago, just last year, came around? Come on. That's an embarrassment.
Dom, where was she at when we were dropping the tray in college?
Right. I'm not clear.
844-967-2789. Hey, Nick, what's your favorite album to smoke weed and listen to late at night?
Hey guys, I've never smoked weed. No judgment, just my choice. But I heard what you were saying. I just got home when I started listening, and you were talking about how politicians want to be tough on crime. A lot of times, it's just tough on drug crime, and the problem is, not marijuana, but especially like things like heroin or crack or something. They don't need to be in jail. They need help. They need to be helped. And in jail, you're not helped. You're gonna tweak out, and you're gonna leave there, and then just go right back to what you were doing. And that's the problem I see. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Sure. I mean, the recidivism rate is tremendously high post-incarceration. Nick, if you are not retrained, if you're not given skills, if you're not even given the skills to cope with your addiction, well, certainly as soon as the drugs are readily available to you once again, you're probably likely to leap back into the old bad habits that you once had. But,
especially I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. I forgive you for now, Nick. The issue I have is drugs have always been treated differently for the blacks and the whites. I mean, if you've got pigmentation to your skin, look at the crack cocaine. I mean, it was the H.W. Bush administration went after weed, eradication of marijuana, and then they purposefully drove down the price of crack cocaine. Only if you utilize crack cocaine, if you smoked it instead of snorting it, because there's lots of people in L.A. that do cocaine, but South Central L.A. was getting poured with crack. Well, they weren't manufacturing any of it in South Central L.A. It was being shipped in, some would say, by the CIA and others with the knowledge of the federal government. But ultimately, what they do, they stuck the crack users in jail for disproportionately high periods of time. They treated the black drug use differently, and it's only this new opioid epidemic that seemingly is affecting white males, Nick. Suddenly we got a drug problem as a nation, and suddenly it's not a war, it's a compassionate health issue of addicts, and we got to give them help, and no doubt we need to. But I would question, why is it only when white addicts are out there on the street overdosing? Why is it only a problem then?
Hey, man, no argument here, okay? I understand that, and I've been consistent for my whole life about this, thinking that, everyone who's addicted needs help. Everyone, no matter your
that becomes that's a healthcare issue, Nick, not a criminal issue, right? Is that your point?
And yeah, it's a healthcare issue. It's not a criminal issue. They should not be criminals. They should not be, especially because once you, let's say you get, arrested for having heroin, let's say, you have a felony record on your record.
Maybe. First offender. I mean, you'd probably get a diversionary agreement, as most first offenders would. Probably not going straight to the big house.
But you're probably going to have a hard time getting a really good job after that.
Well, same's true of weed, though, Nick. I mean, weed is a disqualifier.
I know. It all is, and that's why I'm saying it should not be criminal. It should be a healthcare thing.
Well, Nick, for a change, I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you.
Right, man. I'm with you, Nick.
It's like dogs and cats living together, man. Conservatives and lefties. All on the same page on drug policy. Nick, appreciate the call. Thanks for
dogs and cats living together.
Yeah, there we go.
Hysteria.
We did just get a tweet. Our friend Lisa Joe, and I got one back for you, Lisa Joe. Feel the burn, feel the burn, feel the burn. You know what your job is. But here's what Lisa Joe tweeted at us. I always wanted to run for office, so when the inevitable question, have you ever smoked weed, came up, I could say, you mean today?
Say heroin. Okay.
844-967-2789. Thank you for the call, Nick. Before we get to some other callers, I want to bring up here a piece from thefix.com. Portugal decriminalized or legalized all drugs within its borders back in 2001. Let me just read a little bit. The controversial move went into effect in June of 2001 in response to the country's spiraling HIV/AIDS statistics. While many critics in the poor and largely conservative country attacked the sea change in drug policy, fearing it would lead to drug tourism while simultaneously worsening the country's already shockingly high rate of hard drug use, a report published in 2009 by the Cato Institute tells a different story. Glenn Greenwald, the attorney and author who conducted the research, told Time magazine, judging by every metric, drug decriminalization in Portugal has been a resounding success. It has enabled the Portuguese government to manage and control the drug problem far better than virtually every other Western country. Back in 2001, Portugal had the highest rate of HIV among injecting drug users in the European Union, an incredible 2,000 new cases every year in a country with a population of just 10 million. Despite the predictable controversy the move stirred up at home and abroad, the Portuguese government felt there was no other way they could effectively quell this ballooning problem. While here in the U.S., calls for full drug decriminalization are still dismissed as something of a fringe concern, not on this show, the Portuguese decided to do it. Yeah, you know it, especially on this issue, and have been quietly getting on with it now for a decade. And this is back in this report in 2011. So this has been going on for almost 20 years in Portugal. Anyone wants to do the studies and see, it's out there. Surprisingly, the most credible reports appear to show that decriminalization has been a staggering success. And let me just jump down. Following decriminalization, Portugal eventually found itself with the lowest rates of marijuana usage in people over 15 in the EU, about 10%. Compare this to the 40% of people over 12 who regularly smoke pot in the U.S., a country with some of the most punitive drug laws in the developed world. Drug use of all kinds have declined in Portugal. Lifelong use among 7th to 9th graders fell from 14% to 10.6%. Lifelong heroin use among 16 to 18-year-olds fell from 2.5% to 1.8%. And what about those horrific HIV infection rates that prompted the move in the first place? HIV infection rates fell among drug users by an incredible 17%, while drug-related deaths were reduced by more than half.
So what you're saying, Dom, is legalize frickin' everything.
I'm just saying. I mean, absolutely. I mean, what about freedom, number one? And certainly a lot of these things have a terrible impact on society, but we have to address those. But you don't address it through the criminal justice system. You address it through regulation and through the healthcare system.
Dom, before we get back to the phones, briefly, when society legalizes a substance, let's call it marijuana for conversation's sake, does that remove the stigma, and does that encourage youth to then use that substance, which they might not be prepared to use? Now, I was using weed as a teenager. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I don't think it was hugely detrimental to my development cognitively, but, you be the judge. But ultimately, Dom, what about kids?
Come on, man. I mean, here's my argument I would make back to you. Drinking alcohol is illegal for any person under 21 years of age in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, I've been drinking.
That stops them.
Of course it doesn't. And if you look at the statistics and some of the studies that are out there, of the 20 drunkest cities in the United States, 12 are in the state of Wisconsin. So I mean, you tell me. Let me throw it back at you. It's illegal, right? I mean, for young kids to have it. Does that mean it's a big deal? Would it be less of a big deal if it were legal? I would point out to some of the stories of the Europeans who, the Italians have a little wine with their meals. Well, the kids aren't generally, they're less drunk in Europe than they are in Wisconsin.
Well, it's because we're especially alcoholic here in the state of Wisconsin. I guess the only point I was making is if you're advocating for the broader legalization of all substances, a la Portugal, well, wouldn't that also hold true? I mean, would cocaine use then it's not illegal? Would it be socially stigmatized? I wouldn't encourage any of America's youth to go blast a few lines or do a little freebasing, but that would all be permissible under this drug policy you advocate for.
I would say that the drug policy now does not dissuade people from doing that right now. No, I don't believe it would. I don't believe because some things just because gay marriage become legal doesn't mean all the straight folks are going to go out and start having gay marriage. Now, those who may be using drugs, well, then now don't have to fear the persecution. Perhaps they can go get some help from their healthcare providers and from the government. I mean, how is it a bad thing?
You know, the most dissuasive thing, the most dissuading story about freebasing?
No, what? Tell me.
Richard Pryor, man, caught himself on fire. Who wants to do that? If you've ever even seen the comedy routine, no, do not freebase, kids. Even if Dom says it's okay in Portugal,
no.
It's not okay. Not until you're an adult and freedom. Come back with
Well,
us.
but isn't that kind of the point, though? The rich, the well-to-do, they can get whatever drugs they want and generally don't get prosecuted for it.
Come back with us. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
We cannot arrest everybody that somebody thinks is dangerous.
If there's no there, there's no there.
Judicial system kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Freedom.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Kreutz are the devil's advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Let's get to them. 844-967-2789. First caller, Annie from Watertown. You are up. Happy Fat Tuesday, Annie. What do you got for us?
And a better Ash Wednesday. Yeah, you kind of watch it being just so gung-ho that, if everybody doesn't believe this and has always believed it, whatever. I look at, I have two different things to say. One is I look at one's an ex-brother-in-laws, and the guy I was supposed to marry, you just stop smoking pot because it is making you useless, and it pretty much did. And I would have found that out and not spent 10 years if I wouldn't have been so stoned. But, there's things. My aunt hates alcohol. Her mother was a drunk, and her first husband was a drunk, and she just can't stand alcohol. She's seen, and so she just doesn't want anything to do with it or be around anybody,
Kind of like Donald Trump.
I look at, or, thinking about Kamala Harris, she was a district attorney, and she had to believe in what she was doing, and I'm sure she did a lot of good things, very good things, and they tend to see some of the real troublesome, sad cases of a lot of things in life. So, she probably had to learn more and think more about it and go, first she's all keen in college. Then she sees a bit of life, and so she's like, well, I don't know about it being legal, you know?
Well,
And
Annie, you know what would have
it should be.
alleviated some of that stress of being a highfalutin prosecutor? Smoking a little weed after work.
But, I mean, that's the thing, too. You know, like, you can't, like, if you're doing the equipment or whatever. You know, it was so funny when I was a equipment person in a company, and, you know, this real straight truck driver guy, you know, he spoke up and he said, yeah, but it's really not fair because even if you did last week, you still show up positive.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll never forget this really straight guy talking like that.
And he's right, Andy. And thank you for the call. We always appreciate it. And if, you know, marijuana can stay in your system for what, up to 30 days? Long after the
Depends
high
on how
has...
chubby you are, how much Fat Tuesday celebrate you've done, Dom.
But, you know, I guess I'm not sure that it's, you know, we also have to, you know, be reflective of the times, you know what I'm saying? But you know, I always bring up Loving Virginia, interracial marriage, illegal, wasn't illegal countrywide until, what, 1967, something like that? So if you had a prosecutor, if you had someone who was, like here in the state of Wisconsin, the former Attorney General Brad Schimmel was asked, you know, would you prosecute an interracial marriage if that was a crime still on the books? And, well, yeah, I'd have to. Well, okay, that's what he said. He retracted later. But, you know, if someone's going to do that, yeah, I think you have to consider that when you think about if you're going to support that political candidate. Everyone has right and the obligation, I would think, to evolve. But, you know, you got to look at these things.
Well, most Republicans don't believe in evolution, Dom, first and foremost. And there's a number of issues I've evolved on. You know, are you going to hold me accountable for every ideology I had in college or at age 30?
No, but if you didn't agree to
41?
legalize marijuana till last year, I think maybe you're doing it for politics. As a former prosecutor, I'm just saying, man. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, not everyone has led the lifestyle that you have led, sir. Most people would be dead.
I'm just consistent. Steve from Eureka, California, you are up. What's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for bringing up Richard Pryor. I'd still rather freebase than drive a Pinto.
If you got to go, something's going to kill you, right?
That's right. Something's going to burst into flames. Hey, I have a suggestion for you guys. 2 books. First one by John Kaplan, was a professor at Stanford University when he was hired to be on the commission for Nixon's Commission on Drugs. Wrote a great book called The New Prohibition that I used for a report in my health class in high school in 1971. But if you can find it, it's awesome. It lays out the whole thing about this is ridiculous to make this illegal.
No.
Legalize everything. And the second book is by Johan Hari, Chasing the Scream. More contemporary, well-researched, and talks all about Portugal and other places that have done legalization, not as far as Portugal, but pretty close. And it's working. You know, prohibition obviously doesn't work, and that's all I had to say. You guys are on topic that I love because I'm here in the Emerald Triangle.
Stephen, we love it,
County,
man.
baby. You know, I've heard a few state lawmakers talking about chasing the dragon down.
Republicans.
Chase us back. The happy hour, it starts right now. More Devil's Advocates. You're listening. The phones are open. 844-967-2789.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
Now you gonna believe me or your lying eyes?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamsters Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Democrats probe the 2020 election. I'm Ann Cates. The White House has turned down a request from the House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings for information on how security clearances are granted. Correspondent Manu Raju.
White House counsel Pat Cipollone sent a letter to Cummings essentially rejecting the Democratic demands and not answering the range of questions that they have. They're basically arguing that the committee is not pursuing this under legal grounds. They're not legally obligated to receive this information. They're also saying that it's a violation of rules of the House to ask for such an expansive document request.
FBI Director Christopher Wray says foreign adversaries continue to try and negatively influence the U.S. election process. Wray spoke at a cybersecurity conference today.
Using social media, but lots of other techniques as well, to sow divisiveness and discord, to pit Americans against each other, to undermine our faith in democracy. And that continues. And we're gearing up for it to continue and grow again for 2020.
A significant rise in the number of measles cases nationwide has sparked concern on Capitol Hill.
Doctors say a growing number of children are not getting vaccinated, and that is causing one of the most significant public health problems of our time. Ethan Lindenberger used to be one of those children.
My mother is an anti-vax advocate that believes vaccines cause autism, brain damage, and do not benefit the Health and Safety Society.
Lindenberger, who is now 18, tells senators he decided to get vaccinated despite his mother's opposition.
I saw that the information in defense of vaccines outweighed the concerns heavily.
The scientific community maintains vaccines are safe, effective, and the best protection against serious preventable diseases like measles. Linda Kenyon, Capitol Hill.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 13 points. The S&P down 3. I'm Ann Cates.
Three, two, one. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. In a 29-page indictment today, Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
3 men will serve prison time for their roles in a college basketball recruiting scandal.
Former Adidas executive James Gatto was sentenced to 9 months in prison, while business manager Christian Dawkins and amateur league director Merle Code were given sentences of 6 months each for their roles in the scandal. All 3 were convicted of conspiracy to commit wire fraud back in October for funneling illegal payments to the families of recruits to big-time basketball programs, including Louisville, Kansas, and NC State. Prosecutors say coaches teamed up with the Adidas executive and others to trade hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to help push students to sign with certain schools, shoe sponsors, agents, and even tailors. I'm John Stolnis.
Papa John's has reached a settlement with founder John Schnatter. He will step down from the pizza chain's board once an independent director replaces him. Schnatter left Papa John's after a report that he had used a racial slur. I'm Ann Cates.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. 11 top aides in the Evers administration are making at least 10% more than their predecessors under Governor Walker. A spokesperson for Governor Evers released a statement saying the governor, quote, believes in a fair compensation for the professionals who choose to serve our communities by working in local, state, and federal government. A UW-Milwaukee professor has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault and 1 count of fourth-degree sexual assault. And the Bucks lost to the Suns in Phoenix yesterday, 105-114. Bucks are off until Thursday when they return home to face the Pacers. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to 0. Wednesday highs in the low 20s, and Thursday highs in the mid-20s. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour. We'll take some calls this hour, including Steve from Cudahy, but be patient for a moment longer. Steve, 844-967-2789. Dom, I got a little sad story. I'd like to start the hour with it. I know it's the happy hour, but, hang in there, people.
All right.
Eric Trump. Eric, sort of the Butthead Trump of the Beavis and Butthead Trump son fame. Eric Trump admits pressure on family, maybe not worth winning the presidency.
Whoa.
So?
In a new radio interview with Foxy Friends host Brian Kilmeade, Eric Trump admitted that he sometimes thinks his father becoming president was not worth all the pressure on his family.
To me, they're not even people.
After giving his guest permission to punt on this question, no, you're thinking of Scott Walker, Kilmeade asked, when you and your dad talk with your family around, do you guys ever look at each other and say, was this worth it? Was it worth it to have the family dynamics be put on this type of pressure? Well, I'm sorry. I had to pause. My phone was trying to pop up on me. Well, Eric Trump said he had not had those specific discussions with his father, because his dad really doesn't talk to Eric. He did admit that it is something that he has talked about with his wife, Laura Trump. Have I thought about it in my mind? Have I said it casually at dinner with my wife? 100%. At the same time, he insisted that there is not a day that goes by where people don't come up to me on the street and say, hey, thank you for what your family is doing. Thank you for the sacrifices you made. He said he used to be kind of almost roll my eyes at the statement, "Thank you for the sacrifices," especially when so many people have paid the ultimate sacrifice for the country. But now he gets it. Again, a quote from Eric Trump. I mean, this was a billionaire, arguably, who gave up an unbelievable life to go get punched on the chin every single day, to get abused. And quite frankly, as a family, we've done that as well, Dom.
Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir. The check is in the mail.
Asked by Killmeat if everything his family has gone through over the past couple of years makes winning the re-election more or less important now, Eric Trump answered, "You know what? In a certain way, I want to win this thing." He's not even the candidate, Dom. He's just the dumber of the two sons.
Just a dysfunctional family that is now feeling the pressure of subpoenas or requests for information from these committees. And Crudy, to add to it, New York Times is reporting that Trump's insurance broker Aon has received a request for information as well.
Because Trump continuously inflates and deflates the value of his property. I mean, there's more inflation and deflation going on than a Tom Brady football.
Oh, damn. The 9-page subpoena received by Aon demands a broad range of materials regarding Aon's business with Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization dating back to 2009. According to the person briefed on the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to discuss it publicly. We posted that on our Facebook page from the New York Times.
Now, does Trump make his insurance agent sign an NDA as well?
I don't know if that works that way.
844-967-2789. Steve from Cudahy, appreciate your patience. Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
No problem. I love your show. I have a few examples. I take deference to Dom's thinking, or maybe the caller from Eureka, California, where and I'm not a prude. I think marijuana should be legal, period. But that's under the class of a psychedelic drug, not a psychotropic drug, like the opiates categories. I've worked with many of opiate drug users, addicts that are going through rehab, and all of them said they should not have such a laissez-faire, maybe per Dom. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Sure.
In the totality of thinking, but to make it totally everything free and all that, it's not so much the addiction in terms of, yes, it's the destruction, but you don't see, and that's why I'm 50-50. I sway a little bit. Marijuana, yes, should be legal, but not the opiates, because that's a destructive killer. And most of them said the addicts that are going to rehab said they should not make the opiates, heroin, cocaine, everything under the sun legal, because that has more of the crime element where they have to get in a sense, a grip of what they should not have, since it is illegal and is a harmful substance to the body. Well, we just can't have a society have everything legal because everybody wants it and some people do. Marijuana, I have a problem with that being legal because it's a psychedelic drug. And studies show also that in England in particular, it's either you're addicted or not. So I do agree a little bit that when we want to make in our country, or Wisconsin in particular, marijuana legal, that bitty boobs from West Dallas think, oh my God, everybody's going to be a drug addict. No, either you do it or you don't. Just because it's legal doesn't mean everybody's going to be high on drugs or pot or whatever on every corner of the street. Brian Lewis, they are engaged. They're an interracial couple. I see what they're going through since hopefully a lot of things become legal in that, and I'll take your answers off the air. Thank you.
All right, Steve from Cudahy, thanks for calling. Crew, do you want to jump in there first?
Yeah, I just had a thought. Alcohol is legal, and we have had prohibition of alcohol, but if alcohol was brand new, if ethyl alcohol was a brand new creation and was just hitting the market right now, it'd be a Class E narcotic. So that thing's already legal, and of course, many people dying, if not from the immediate use of alcohol, they're dying from the long-term impact on their livers. They're being pickled from the alcohol they drink, and that's completely permissible here in the United States, and certainly this state, Wisconsin. And Dom, you know we've lost a good friend to opioids. Mm-hmm. We lost our buddy Bob. And, you know, ultimately, I don't know. I don't know that the fact that it was illicit, at least, you know, when the scripts ran out, the use of the opioids, and he wasn't shooting heroin in his arm, didn't have to. Pills were readily available. And he found them, and he bought them, and he used them, and eventually he died from them. And I'm not clear, Dom, and I guess I agree with the last caller in this regard, and I'm not sure. It's a fine line, buddy. You know, I'm not clear that if we legalize everything, and I can see the evidence, and I believe in evidence-based decision-making. I can look at Portugal, but ultimately I'm not sure that I am an advocate of legalizing everything. I don't know if I want needle exchanges on the corner, if I want heroin users, you know, to not be stigmatized. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions on someone else's family. Again, we're talking about a close friend of ours. But you know, I guess the social stigma never stopped them from taking the pills in the first place.
It never will.
But
I mean,
pills are...
Come on, they go back to the opium wars,
sanitized,
man.
Dom. But, you know, he wasn't smoking opium in a den. He wasn't doing heroin
No,
in his
you can
arm.
buy stock in your drug dealer now with Big Farm and what, Purdue Pharmaceuticals, right?
But that's the point, Dom. The fact that the pills were somehow sanitized. They were stigmatized in the same way societally. To my opinion, I think that made it, you know, perhaps okay. And we've known some pillheads in our day, and I'm sure there's a few listening right now, but it's a tough, complex issue, Dom.
It is. But I think we need to be realistic with ourselves. I mean, the prohibition doesn't work, man. Let's just get to it. I mean, what are the Republicans all screaming about? All the drugs coming across the border. Well, why is that? Because we have demand. People want them. And you know, one of the biggest problems with prohibition is the crime that it creates around the prohibition. I mean, you know, Bobby was going to use no matter what, man. Bobby was going to use. And we worked with Bobby. We went to the, you know, the different programs he was in and out for years. And it just caught up with him. Now, did the fact that it was illegal, that didn't dissuade him. He bounced in and out, of course, with being caught with some of these things. Had some ramifications legally for that. But that's not what he needed. He needed help. He needed health care. It's not, and I get it, man. I just don't believe that if the things become legal, that all of a sudden there's going to be a huge spike and everyone's going to be popping lines and shooting up on the corners. I don't buy that for a minute. I think that the people that are going to use, and they're going to do it regardless. I think we as a society need to come to terms. We know that, pardon me, we know that prohibition of alcohol did not work. We know that prohibition of marijuana does not work. It doesn't work. And we see other countries that now have almost 20 years of experience behind them. Granted, small country, but there's certainly studies out there that could suggest that perhaps we can address these societal problems. Addiction's a problem, whether or not it's quote-unquote legal or not. It didn't matter. People still use it. They're going to use it. That's not the point. And we have to address that. And damn it all, where's our freedom? I mean, if I'm not doing anything wrong with society, you look at some of the, you know, the rock stars that die at 27, right? The 27 Club. You know, if you're well-to-do and you're connected, you can get whatever the hell you want, anytime you want, and pay no repercussion for that. Well, so what does that mean? That means that those who have less are more likely to get caught up in the system, in the justice system, unjustly so. Look at the turnout of those who are incarcerated for drug use, certainly much higher among African Americans and the brown-skinned folks than the white folks.
Let me ask you a question, Big Mama Cats. I get the fact that these rock and rollers died at 27, be it Jim Morrison, be it, you know, a litany of them. I won't even try to remember all of them because there was at least a handful. But my question to you, little buddy, is it government's job, is it society's job to protect you from your own worst inclinations? Make you wear a seatbelt, Dom. Eat your broccoli. Society makes you do certain
No, but
things
you can have the
for
law,
your
but it doesn't
own
make me
self-interest.
do it, Curdy. That's the point.
Sure,
just
no one
because
can
you
make
pass
you
the
do
law,
anything.
that's the point. That's what I'm trying to.
But so many of these laws are to protect people from themselves, Dom. Effectively, if you talk about, keeping people away from the opioids, why are we doing that? It is, quote unquote, a victimless crime unless you perceive that perhaps the person that overdoses is the victim.
Come on, when you ban trans fats and white sugar, then you can talk to me. When you ban nicotine and alcohol, then you can have that discussion. But until then, we're a free people. And it's time for us to stand up as adults and look around and say, hey, punishing people with the justice system based on using these narcotics or these drugs is not the way to address the addiction and the problems, the health problems, and the societal problems that come along with them. And think of the crime it creates, man. How much money is being given to the cartels and these types that are going to supply this? Because as long as there is demand, there will always be supply. Always.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Coming back, more of your phone calls. The lines, they're open. They're toll-free. 844-967-2789. LA Tom, you're next. We the people, my friend. We the people have a voice here on the Devil's Advocates radio show.
I've not yet begun to defile myself. Very cosmopolitan.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
I can't believe he found them.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? What, did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again. The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on the YouTubes and on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. And the party line always have a spot for you. Toll free at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, if I played Major League Sports, if I had walk-up music, it'd be Nazareth. It'd be this. And I played this song in honor of Judge Amy Berman Jackson. You know, Roger Stone's judge. I found this little article at the Daily Beast. We'll get to the phones. I promise, Tom. I promise, Tony. 844-967-2789. Roger Stone can't seem to keep a court-mandated gag in his mouth, and the judge in his case is fed up. bring out the gimp. In a blistering order issued on Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson blasted Stone for allegedly trying to, and here's the quote, Dom, generate additional publicity with a last-minute notice about an update to a book he wrote about the Russia investigation. Here's the quote. He deliberately waited until public sales were not only imminent, but apparently ongoing to inform the court of the publication effort that had been underway for weeks. Jackson wrote in the public scolding. Stone is being prosecuted by special counsel Robert Mueller for allegedly lying to Congress about his contacts with WikiLeaks during the 2016 election. He has pled not guilty. Jackson ordered him not to discuss the case in public, but in a filing last week, Stone's attorney warned her that the imminent release of an update to his book, The Myth of Russian Collusion, could have an impact on his compliance with the order. The attorneys tried to argue that Jackson's gag order didn't cover the update because it was written before the order was in place. Jackson didn't buy that. Her quote, "It does not matter when the defendant may have first formulated the opinions expressed or when he first put them into words," she wrote. "The fact that the order exists at all is entirely the fault of the defendant," Jackson reminded Stone before suggesting that the self-described dirty trickster may have using the filing to drum up interest in the revision of his book. It's not the first time Stone has angered Jackson. We've talked about that before. Let's get back to the phones, though. Don't mess with the judge. I'm just saying, if you've already been scolded by the judge, don't mess with the judge again. Don't tell her, hey, I'm updating the book. Well, can't wait until you read it, Your Honor.
He's got to pay for the attorneys, man. It ain't cheap being a friend of Trump's.
When people try to sell books, they do all sorts of interesting, exotic things.
I wonder if Roger Stone's going to donate all the profit from his book to charity like they were asking Cohen last week.
No.
No.
844-967-2789. You can introduce him, Dom.
Our pal, L.A. Tom. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates, man. What do you got for us?
Hey, guys. We the people.
We the people.
And what I want to say is that we got to be real careful, even in our primary fights, that we don't go and beat up the other candidates so much that we end up with another situation like we did before. You look at everything that Trump has done, he does one day worse than anything that Kamala Harris has done or anybody like that. And what I mean by that is, as an example, I'm not in favor of Joe Biden because of the fact that he made it where you could not discharge bankruptcy from student loans or use bankruptcy for your student loans. Yep. He actually was the co-sponsor, or he was the sponsor on that bill. So therefore, I'm not in favor of Joe Biden, but I'm not going to demonize Joe Biden.
Sure.
I'm going to look at Joe Biden and say, I don't agree with that policy of that. Now, if Joe Biden's the candidate, I'm voting for Joe Biden. Right. But the thing is, Bernie Sanders is someone that has been consistent, has been the same person that you've seen for over and over again, and I think that's the appeal that people have. Kamala Harris may be someone that gets in front of the parade after the parade starts to go, and we got to understand that if we got people that are being pushed, not demonized, but pushed over to the progressive side, let's encourage that. Let's not look at that and be like, oh man, this person's a horrible human being, or this person's a horrible candidate because they don't believe exactly the way that we do, but they're moving in that progressive way.
Tom, got to cut you short. Well, how could I hold it against the people? I persuade them each and every day right here on the Devil's Advocates. I'm commanding you, dial right now, 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
Hey, what happened?
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com. Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice, sir. What should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. Former Attorney General Eric Holder will be visiting Wisconsin next week to stump for Judge Lisa Neubauer. Judge Neubauer is running for state Supreme Court, opposing Judge Brian Hagedorn to replace Supreme Court Justice Shirley Abrahamson. Holder is investing $350,000 to two groups helping Neubauer, Together Wisconsin Acts and Black Leaders Organizing Communities. And the Bucks lost to the Suns in Phoenix yesterday, 105-114. Bucks are off until Thursday when they return home to face the Pacers. Highs today in the mid-teens with some clouds. Overnight lows close to zero. Wednesday highs in the low 20s and Thursday highs in the mid-20s. For Real Resistance Radio, happy Punchki Day.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Brian, does that mean there's pastry in Milwaukee and I have not been given a punch key?
Keith brought it in, and it was delicious.
Yeah, we did. We ate a little bit. It was tasty. Now we're having a nice cold beer. It's all good here in Milwaukee. How you doing over there, Krut?
I got no punch key. I got no cold beer.
If you come in tomorrow, I'll bring you some gumbo.
Oh, I had gumbo for lunch today. I'm okay. I did. I had gumbo for lunch, So, Crudy, I'm doing okay, and I'm kind of watching my P's and Q's. I'm not getting fat like you guys on this Fat Tuesday, you fat bastards.
It's PHAT, Crudy.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that, Fluffy. 844-967-2789. Tony from Portland, welcome back.
Slumpy, I love it.
I'm unhappy because I eat.
You know, the one thing that I can get down with as far as the libertarian point of view is making drugs legal. And the reason I say so is because fire is legal. There's semi-automatics are legal. Anvils are legal. Gravity is legal. All of these things can kill you. And the reason they don't is because somebody educated you somewhere along the line that jumping out a 3-story window will kill you. So if you do heroin every day, you become a junkie. If you just educate people, that's how you solve the problem.
Tony, what's your thought process on sex workers? You know, assuming they're consensual and not being trafficked.
Yeah.
My buddy Dom's all down for legal handies for everybody.
Yeah, if two consenting adults in a private room, what's the problem?
Amen, brother. And I think if sex workers were legalized, it would actually help the human trafficking problem that we have in this country. I mean, just because something's illegal and we don't talk about it at the dinner table and we don't talk about the junkie uncle or someone who's going to see the services of a masseuse in Florida, even if you just won a Super Bowl.
To me, this is a very, very sexy subject.
Just because those things are not addressed like adults doesn't mean they don't happen. And it's just so asinine for as conscious adults, free will adults that we ignore these things or push them aside when we know it's happening everywhere around us. Why don't we just say, hell yes, we're human. Let's embrace it. Let's try to control it, keep it clean, keep it safe, and let people do what they will. Because they're going to do what they will anyway.
Educate them. Just educate people on what. Have a good day, guys.
Tony, I appreciate your call. I guess the question I would have, should you be able to raw dog a porn star, or should we protect you from yourself, Donald Trump? Should we force compliance on condom usage?
No. What? No, I'm certainly. I mean, if you're going to have promiscuous sex, I would recommend that. But what are you going to have? An inspector in the room? I mean, you can lead a horse to water, crude. You cannot make them drink. And how do we not embrace, discuss, throw on the table, legitimizing the world's oldest profession? I mean, talk about pure capitalism, Republicans.
Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
This is what I'm saying, and I don't say this lightly. I mean, I just think that. If I decide and I walk down the street and offer my services and some woman wants to give me money to have sex with me and I agree to do so,
this is how your fantasy goes? You're the one being paid down?
Well, yeah. What?
Just a gigolo?
Everywhere I go, people know the part I'm playing. But why would it matter? Why does the government need to get involved in that? I mean, this is the oldest profession in the world. 844-967-2789. Crew, do you think
do you promise to fake it for her pleasure?
I'm not sure how that would work. I've never been paid for sex. But why shouldn't I be able to be if I choose to do so and I find a willing customer?
Well, Dominic, I would suggest that it is primarily Republicans that frequent the sex workers. Because Republicans, they always have to pay for sex.
Well, the repressed, perhaps. Listen, I just think that if you go to Vegas, and I know it's only legal in some spots or whatever the case may be, but it's not like it's not happening. You go to any of the major hotels, come midnight, you see the flock of people walking in. I mean, they're not coming to the hotel, they're coming to work. It's just, it's evident and it's out there. And you keep it illegal. You keep people in the shadows. You keep them controlled. You don't make it safe. I mean, if they were, registered, tested, taxed, like anything else that we do in this society when we engage in trade and commerce, why do it any different? Because what? Because
everything you want.
And perhaps Yelp rated.
Perhaps.
We would know where to invest our money. You're looking for consistency. Everybody seeks value, right?
Yeah. Hell, even the owner of the New England Patriots. I mean, the guy's a billionaire getting a $59 handy. I mean, come on.
I heard he gave over $100, Dom. Does that mean 2 happy endings?
Oh, he's a big tipper.
844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I don't think I can listen to you guys while I'm driving anymore. First, I got like a contact buzz or something. I had a headrest while I'm driving, and then I got the munchies, and then I got all shaky and everything, and now me so hungry.
You know what I'm doing right now, Pizza Box Mike? If it was up to Dom's discretion, we'd be playing Trump sound. I'm just trying to buy time and change the topic, my friend.
We love you long time.
It's all for the audience sake, Mike.
When you said that, if a woman offers to have sex with Dom and he decides to, if he decides to, I mean, okay, never mind. I just thought that, from all the stories in college and stuff, you're kind of a freewheeling guy, right?
There was a time, Mike. There was a time.
I know, but now you got a family and it's all cool.
Right.
So, and knowing your guys' families helps a lot, too. But, getting serious about that, I don't advocate for the use of, narcotics or even to that point, alcohol. But I also don't say that people shouldn't have the choice. And here's the thing that happens with when you legalize it, and here's one of the reasons why, of course, it doesn't happen very fast is because it comes with regulation. And we know that the Republicans have spent billions of dollars to deregulate everything. So that's one of the battles there.
I mean, you don't get any more regulated than having something be illegal. I mean, that is the ultimate in regulation. Because not only do you, limit the supply into the market, but you punish the users of the good or service. I mean, that is the ultimate regulation. So when Republicans say they don't want regulation, we'll ask them about their enforcement of drug laws or sex worker laws.
Well, and I also think that it makes the industry, as it would become, much safer. And
yes,
of course, then you'd be able to regulate the strength of these drugs, probably not putting fentanyl and stuff anymore.
Excellent point, Michael.
You have the pharmaceuticals. Yeah, as long as you have pharmaceutical companies out there, not only advertising, but advocating for drugs that might help you and might kill you. Every time I see their commercials, I just shake my head wondering.
Ask your physician if crack is right for you, Pizza Box.
Yeah, well, I'll just stick to what I stick to. And marijuana doesn't kill people. And you guys are right, though. You shouldn't really drive while you're smoking it. You should pull over, wait for the head rush to go away, and then drive.
I'm not advocating for using heavy machinery while high, Michael.
Thanks for the
call,
But
I'm just saying you got to get to work somehow, right?
844-967-2789. I think you brought a great point. This whole fentanyl issue. I mean, when people, the counterfeit pills that are out there, you just get the fentanyl, and this stuff is so super powerful, it only takes a little bit to kill you. So if you're not very careful in your counterfeiting, and I'm not clear how careful the Mexican the Chinese counterfeiters are when they're mixing this stuff together and making them in their little plants, and people stamping them with a letter or something. I'm not clear that they're measuring everything out entirely perfectly. It's very similar to the bathtub gym problem during Prohibition. I mean, people are going to drink. They want to drink. Well, what do? I'm going to mix up some battery acid and ammonia, and here you go. Well, of course, people were dying because of regulation of alcohol and nicotine and marijuana and all the other drugs is a good thing. You don't want people, how many people OD and die because they take something that is illicit, does not have an actual amount of what they think it might be, or it's a counterfeit drug. Well, next thing you know, you're ODing on fentanyl when you thought you were taking a legit Percocet.
Dominic, I go out and I order rum and Coke at a bar, spiced rum, and I think I'm getting Captain Morgan, but someone gives me Sailor Jerry, and it's like double the proof, man. Next thing I know, I'm a little lit up. That is first world problems, but I'm saying I have these problems. 844-967-2789. We all got problems, like Jake from Milwaukee. Welcome, sir. What's your problem?
Well,
I leave you guys alone for 15 minutes, and then Dom's selling himself on the radio.
I didn't actually.
It's going to take some mass marketing, Jake, to find any takers.
Well, I'm just saying, is Dom his own John now, or what?
He's got pensioners lining up around town. Hell, he's a trick and he's a pimp.
I'm a trick and a treat. Well, Jake, you wouldn't need a John, man. I'm incorporated. I'm on the corner. I'm in the window. I take Visa and MasterCard. I pay my taxes. You don't need a John. You don't need a pimp and necessarily maybe a manager in these situations when it's legal. It's the fact that it's illegal that creates all of these issues about Guido the Killer Pimp.
Jake,
I agree.
The night of my bachelor party, Dom dragged me in to a strip club, and I went willingly, but he dragged me into this particular one, and then he paid extra to have the girls beat the you-know-what out of me.
I didn't know they were going to do that.
I mean, I think he was trying to teach me a lesson.
I find it sexy.
Yeah. You can only trick for Dom or there's hell to pay.
I got a question for you guys. So I'm all for legalizing marijuana, and I hear a lot about the tax money that you get from the marijuana taxing itself. But what about other businesses that reap the rewards from it? For instance,
I got to think the donut shops will do gangbusters. What do you think, Jake?
Milwaukee and Wisconsin, we're known for food. I mean, I just wondered, do you know any numbers about other businesses and how much money they make from the side from having marijuana tourism in Colorado or something? Because it's got to be huge.
I'm not sure, Jake. The Doritos guys got to be doing okay. I got to think the donut people, the late night diners.
Well, I think we can look at the Foxconn deal here in Wisconsin and look, right? There's a certain amount that the Republicans have said that we will be
ancillary.
The ancillary supply and other jobs. Yes, of course. Perhaps people will be going out to eat more. But Jake, there are probably legitimate other side industries that would go up. But of course, the question would be then: do people in Wisconsin, we're big drinkers here, Jake? Do we drink one or two less drinks and smoke a joint? And does that impact booze and beer companies? And of course, those companies, they got a lot of money. They're very powerful and influential in the state of Wisconsin.
True. I don't know. I just think it'd be nice that okay, my mind's gone now, so I'm leaving.
All right, Jake. Thanks for the call, man.
Now Jake's getting a little fuzzy, and he's got the munchies. He's got to go hit the fridge. I tell you what, let's all hit the fridge right now. There's one segment left in this big show, and if you're not careful, if you don't dial right now, Dom could play some Trump sound.
I promise it's there. We got a lot of Trump news. We hardly got to Trump today. I'll just talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Kind of got us sidetracked.
Do your duty or Dom's playing Trump. 844-967-2789. And, if the price is right, Dom will make you a happy customer.
I want to see virtue and morality returned to our country.
Daddy, can I go with you? I said, yes, you can.
Everything you want.
Transgender.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
I love you long time. Me so horny.
Then it came in and out. It came in 3 times.
The bread spread from Kraft.
And then we will be straight.
Freedom.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, I work hard to be a leader in my industry, and I know the challenges posed by changing technology. It's my priority to make sure your network is up over 99% of the time. There's no question, trying to manage your own business IT is risky, costly, and time-consuming. Don't let IT overwhelm you. Learn more about Five Nines at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white. I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones if you can stop touching yourself at 844-967-2789. Brian calling an audible, man. I love it.
You've been a naughty, naughty audience. You didn't dial the phone, the 844-967-2789. Now, Dom's going to have to punish you.
You've been a bad, bad audience.
Coming up next to the stage, it's Dominic.
Crudy on deck. Crudy on deck. Oh, all right. Any more topics on the sex, drugs, and rock and roll? We're good there now? Should we actually talk some politics in the last segment?
I was trying not to, but I'm afraid we're going to be forced to go there, Dom.
We have to. Donald Trump today signing some executive order on veteran suicides. A very sad topic. No doubt about it.
Sober topic.
Yeah, no question. But of course, that gets overshadowed by the constant investigations going on of this president and. Of course, he spoke about it briefly today. We'll start with the pound number one, Fancy Brian Trump regarding the House probe. We've heard this before, but we're going to play it again because he keeps saying it. It's a hoax.
The witch hunt continues. The fact is that I guess we got 81 letters. There was no collusion. There was a hoax. There was no anything.
Well, I guess just respond to the letters.
That solved it, Dom.
Encourage the investigation. Look forward to, getting your story out there, redeeming yourself, and moving on. But no, let's continue on. Once again, the 81 letters. And he kind of goes back and forth here. And this is what is really just frustrating about this human being. Because is he being snarky? Is he being serious? I don't know how to take it. Let's play cut one.
81 people or organizations got letters. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to our country. I'm not surprised that it's happening. Basically, they've started the campaign. So the campaign begins. But the campaign's their campaign's been going on for the last 2.5 years. So it's a shame. And the people understand it. When they look at it, they just say presidential harassment. But that's okay.
Listen, the election begins. Well, actually, it's been going on for 2.5 years. Well, it can't be both. In the same breath, Trump. And then, of course, what? This presidential harassment. That's what people are saying. No, dude, that's what you're saying. And you're hoping everybody that, follows you on Twitter and supports you will also agree with you. But I don't think that they necessarily do. Of course, in the end, it's saying, well, that's okay. Well, if it's okay, why are you talking about it? Your president, not mine. Let's keep going. Donald Trump. Of course, they've done more than almost any administration ever. Cut two.
No administration has accomplished probably you could say this with absolute surety in the first 2 years, anywhere near what we've accomplished, whether it's the tax cuts, whether it's regulation cuts, whether it's the Veterans Administration, what we've done with the Veterans Administration with choice and so many other things that nobody thought would be possible to get passed. No administration has done in its first 2 years what the Trump administration has done.
I'm just saying, you can't say probably, absolutely. I mean, those are right. Those are two words that mean something that can't be applied to the same topic in the same sentence. And yet you go back to back.
Are you holding out for grammar? I mean, really?
That's not grammar. He's using the words in the right in the context. The words that he's using conflict with what he's trying to say.
My bad. Syntax. We're going to argue syntax. That's your biggest problem with this president. He doesn't know the meaning of words, and he strings
I think it goes
many bigly words together.
It goes to his mindset. It's a judgment on his character and mindset. He conflicts in himself within the same breath multiple times. Of course, we all know that. Let's continue. Cut number 3. The Dems are just playing games.
What the Democrats want to do, they cannot stand the loss. They could not stand losing in 2016. I see it all the time. I see people getting on. I saw a certain person get up yesterday, the anger, and they just haven't gotten used to the fact that we won a lot of states that haven't been won by Republicans in a long time. But essentially what they're saying is the campaign begins, instead of doing infrastructure, instead of doing health care, instead of doing so many things that they should be doing, they want to play games.
And some foreshadowing, perhaps, because, Obama cut for.
President Obama, from what they tell me, was under a similar kind of a thing, didn't give one letter. They didn't do anything. They didn't give one letter of the request. Many requests were made. They didn't give a letter.
So my understanding, the news being reported on the CNN today, the Trump administration is not going to respond to the request for documents regarding the Jared Kushner's clearances.
Because they didn't follow the proper lettering procedure, Tom? Because that's about as sensible as you get mad at Trump for syntax.
I'm just pointing it out. And, of course, because Obama, last Trump, I promise. Cut 5.
It's too bad, because I'd rather see them do legislation. We negotiate out legislation where so many things, actually things that we agree on, like infrastructure, but they want to focus on nonsense.
It's not really nonsense, and you're going to get nailed to the wall on this. His former attorney, Ty Cobb, Crudy, came out, big story. He's a big fan of Mueller. Let's jump forward to cut number 81.
Cobb, now that's the guy that's apparently related to the former baseball star, Ty Cobb, the Black Sox scandal guy. But he looks like, Wilford Brimley with handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
That guy, that
guy. His comments on the Mueller investigation. Start with 81, please.
He is a very deliberate guy, but he's also a class act and a very justice-oriented person.
Ty Cobb, Trump's former attorney, talks about the organization. Trump needs a better HR team. Cut 82.
I think it'd be disingenuous to suggest that the president doesn't need a better HR team, and that some of the people that have been chosen and put in significant roles have not performed as he may have hoped.
Yeah, but I think that's not because he didn't have an HR team, because they didn't do what he told them to do. And finally, Mueller, Ty Cobb, the former attorney for the president, cut 85.
I think Bob Mueller's an American hero. I think Bob Mueller's a guy that, even though he came from an arguably privileged background, has a backbone of steel. He walked into a firefight in Vietnam to pull out one of his injured colleagues.
Would you consider Ty Cobb one of the angry Democrats, Crudy?
Probably not. But with facial hair like that, he can't be a proper Republican, right?
Why not?
I didn't think they were really down for the facial hair. Sort of the clean-shaven, baby-face sorts.
Come on, don't you remember Speaker Paul Ryan's beard? I mean, that's kind of burned into my mind.
Wasn't that for Movember? whatever. Thanks for listening. Devil's Advocates will do it again for you tomorrow, right here between 3 and 6. And don't forget the Brian Kelly Show, 2 to 3. We got the finest lead-in ever. You better start listening. Thank you. We'll do it again tomorrow. Devil's Advocates, Real Resistance Radio, WRD, 1510 AM, WTTN, 1580 AM. Going off the air in like 1 minute.
I'm in no rush for speed.
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we are an AM daytime radio station, this now concludes our broadcast day. But you don't have to leave us. We do stream online 24/7 at Real Resistance Radio.